Another question, Joe, worth asking is whether or not it could be saved today. All conversations, as Joe suggested, about the financial crisis, you could start over here in left field. You're going to end up discussing whether the investment bank could have been saved by the government and the Federal Reserve. A series of blockbuster interviews. Our CNBC documentary tonight will show top Wall Street executives arguing it should have and could have been saved. Their contention is directly at odds with the history as told by Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke, New York Fed President Tim Geithner, and Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson, who said they had no authority to save Lehman. Listen here.
This argument that they didn't have the legal authority was never brought up that weekend. This argument that they didn't have the legal authority was created after the fact. I believe, and they said at the time, that there was no political will to rescue Lehman.
They had the power. That was a decision. It was a decision they made to let Lehman go, and I think the reason was that they thought the country could withstand it. It was a judgment they made.
I know they feel that they couldn't have, that they didn't have the power to, but long ago some Fed chairman told me that whatever the Fed thinks it can do, it could do.
So no less than Warren Buffett making the case. But as you'll see in the documentary, Geithner rejects the claim, saying they couldn't say at the time a bailout was impossible or would cause panic.
I don't believe that's true. And, Hank and Ben have written about this openly. They publicly, in the initial days after Lehman's failure, did not want to say that we had no option to save them on our own. They thought for them to declare at that point that we had no options available to protect people from the panic would make the panic worse.
So what's important about this is not only the history of the single event that sparked the greatest financial panic since the Great Depression, but also what happens next time. Rules have been tightened to make it even harder for the Fed to bail out an investment bank. If bailing out Lehman was right then, does it make sense that it's even harder to do now? Those new rules, by the way, were passed in part by a were adopted by the Fed from proposed legislation that were passed by a conservative and a liberal senator. So that shows this bipartisan opposition to bailout. So it's both political and, look, I don't remember at the time whether or not that we couldn't do it because it wasn't legal. Explanation was ex post. But I remember
them saying it right afterwards.
They said it right afterwards. And I don't know. Is Andrew there?
We're talking about perfect capitalism. We were talking about it earlier.
I heard,
perfect capitalism. And you're not supposed to have moral hazard. You're supposed to let things fail when they deserve to fail. And there's still somewhat people, they don't say it anymore. Maybe we should have guaranteed the money market fund. Maybe we should have done
We did
something.
that.
Okay, but maybe we should have done something far short of what was done, because you've heard Rick talk about price discovery. We haven't had, maybe we didn't have price discovery for the last 10 years like we should have in all these markets. And maybe that's why maybe it wasn't the last administration's
fault.
But
what happens, Joe?
You know how you flush the toilet all at once?
Let me ask you a question. Yeah, I know that story. That's the.
I don't know what I'm saying. I'm not saying.
Let me ask you a question though. Is perfect capitalism worth pursuing if average people can't get money out of their ATMs?
Right. No. Yeah.
Right. No, you'd have to. Short of what was done, there could have been.
Well, but you're saying see, that's the thing. You're saying they went too far. These guys are saying they didn't go far enough.
I'm just bringing it up.
That's really the big issue. And whether or not now we should step. This is the thing I'm most interested in. We should step in.
Joe, I just wanted to jump in here. I don't know of any economist.
Not anymore.
I don't know of any economist who believes that somehow letting all of these institutions fail and flushing the toilet would have
philosophical point,
ended in a
It's a
quicker
philosophical
recovery.
point that if you're going to put money down with the hope of making profits, that it doesn't work if you don't lose when you take the bad risk.
Sure, but it's some efforts to do that, Joe. It's harder to do the bailout.
So like the water utility, if you cut off the water, nobody can drink the water.